Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today in this BTS talk, in which Diego Saez-Trumper will share with us his vision about combating fake news thanks to Wikipedia and AI. Diego is a senior research and scientist at the Wikimedia Foundation, where he supports the Wikimedia movement. At the end of this talk, we'll have some minutes dedicated to Q's and A's, so you can write your questions and we'll read them at the end. Also, we're going to have an open chat, so you can start the discussion there. So thank you very much for participating and attending. And thank you, Diego. I will leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecilia. I'll share my screen if I can. Let me see. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Christina and Cecilia, for organizing this, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with the BTS, and also it's always a pleasure to talk about how we work in the Wikimedia Foundation fighting disinformation and applying machine learning on Wikipedia. So the scope that I will propose today is it's a bit. I would love to say you that Wikipedia it's the way to combat fake news, but more than explaining you today how you can use Wikipedia to fight fake news, I will explain you what are the challenges that we face when we try to fight disinformation in Wikipedia. So fake news is a piece of that. I will explain a bit how some big text uses Wikipedia to fight fake news. But for me, the most important message today is transmit you how we think we can use machine learning, data science to help the community of editors on Wikipedia to have a better Wikipedia. So I want to start this with a question. Usually in live presentations, in on-site presentations, we will have a short discussion here, but let me give you 10 seconds to think about this question. So the question for you is, what should I do? What should you do if you find information in Wikipedia that you think that is wrong or false? Think 5 seconds in this place. So I will give you some alternatives just to help you. So first thing that you could do is change your mind. So maybe if it's in Wikipedia, it's probably true. I won't recommend that one, but it's always good also to challenge your own confirmation bias. The other thing that you could do is go and edit the article, remove the wrong information, and add your opinion. This is maybe better than the previous one, depending if you're right or wrong. But still, yeah, maybe this is not about adding opinions. Another thing that a lot of people think that they should do is to write an email to Wikipedia. In fact, there's emails that you can write, and there will be some people reviewing that. But if everyone that finds something wrong in Wikipedia will write an email, Wikipedia won't be what it is nowadays. For sure, you can go take a screenshot and share on social media. And if the error is funny enough or big enough, you might get some followers. And by the way, maybe someone will see that and will correct that in Wikipedia too. But yeah, this is not what we suggest to you. This is a new option that I just thought when I started working in the Wikimedia Foundation. I never thought about this before, but it's something that is happening to me more and more. You can find someone that works in Wikimedia Foundation, hopefully it's a friend, and you write to him, her, they, and you send the error. Please don't do that, at least with me. I'm usually not correcting Wikipedia pages. And in fact, in my capacity of Wikimedia Foundation employee, we don't write the content. The content is written by the community. I will explain more about this later. So please, that option, ignore. And last option is take this question that I put, what I should do if I find information in Wikipedia that I think is wrong or false, put in Google or in a more privacy-preserving search engine, and put these questions. And then if you have enough search capabilities, you might find some instructions and you can follow them. Yeah, maybe the last one is what I would suggest. Um, and if you do that, and as I said, if you have enough search skills, you might end finding this Wikipedia article where you get some instructions of what to do if you see an article that might be inaccurate. So you can, as we said, you can correct it yourself, but it's not with your opinion. You're supposed to add citations to reliable sources to verify the information that you're adding. Maybe what you found is not completely false or wrong, but it's about neutrality, the problem that you are noting. So there's just one side of, let's say, a specific fact. And you can say, okay, you can follow that link, and you will get a lot of instructions on how to write neutral article, or what are the directions that you have for that. Also, there's maybe you don't think that everything is wrong, but there are a few things that you think that are wrong. There are other practices that you can do, say that this content should be disputed. And yeah, more or less here you have some instructions. And I would love to say you that, again, that this is the solution. You search on Google, you find this instruction, you follow, and everything's solved. And somehow it's what we expect you do. If you try to do these things, we'll get more editors, and at the end, the quality of the content will be better. But this is just one specific case of problems with content quality on Wikipedia. Maybe there's something much more difficult, like you see that there's some disinformation campaign going on, or maybe there are some very dangerous content or pictures that shouldn't be there, etc. So what I'm doing kind of a trick here, because this is just one of the several content issues that you can find on Wikipedia. So the thing is, it's not that simple. And the important thing to know, if you want to start writing Wikipedia, is that we have three main core content policies. One, as I mentioned, is the neutral point of view. So that means that we want that articles in Wikipedia represent significant views fairly, proportionately, and without bias. The other thing is that the content needs to be verifiable, meaning that even that you have a very good source, if you cannot share that source, this is not a valid source. So we need to have the link to the source that you are citing. And this goes with the last core content policy, that is Wikipedia is not the place to put original research. So you need to always cite a reliable and published source. Okay, so this is about what you're supposed to do. But how we apply these policies, because if everyone will be applying these policies, we won't have any problem with Wikipedia content. And as our previous CEO used to say, we do our best, but we know that we are very far from perfect. So how to apply these policies? The main thing that helps us to apply these policies is that we have a lot of editors. Some of them are more experts. Some of them are newcomers that are learning how to use Wikipedia. A tiny proportion of them maybe are people trying to, on purpose, spread disinformation in our platforms. And as you can see, this is, for example, the number of editors in the last 2 years. This is the number of daily editors. This is not edit, so this is single people. And if you add the users that are registered and the users that edit anonymously, because in Wikipedia it's the encyclopedia that everyone can edit, so you don't need to register to edit on Wikipedia. Almost in all languages, there are some languages now, like Portuguese, where they are asking people to register to edit. But for example, in the English Wikipedia, we have around 4,000 people, and you can see there are few bots, less than 100. There are two types of bots, but let's say that in total is less than 100. We have 24,000 people that is daily editing Wikipedia, and there's are the ones that are basically applying these policies. Some of them, there's also the ones that are breaking these policies, but in general, most of them are applying these policies. So the message here is that Wikipedia nowadays is mainly human powered. So means that without this community, there's no one that I will talk later about machine learning or data science that will help. The main thing, I don't want to use the word asset, but the main thing that makes Wikipedia different is the community behind. Some people like to say that Wikipedia doesn't work in theory, but somehow works in practice. And how this works? So how these 24,000 editors, and this is just the active users. If you add up, if you sum up all the editors, you have much more in the history of Wikipedia. These people organize themselves in a very complex ecosystem. This is just a diagram that explains some parts of the Wikipedia administration org chart. In fact, this is a bit old because here you don't see research. I think it's not appearing there. We are under technology. But there's some governance system that includes the community, and where the Wikimedia Foundation is just a small part. We like to say that the Wikimedia Foundation is the one that operates Wikipedia. So basically, we offer the tools, we run their servers, we do the research for generating new tools and new services and new insights to the community. But the main thing is about the community, and the community organized in different ways. There's a board, but also every project. And when I say project, I'm referring, for example, to Wikipedia languages. So I will say that English Wikipedia is one project, Spanish Wikipedia is another project, Portuguese Wikipedia is another project, etc., etc. All of them have different ways, but some things that they share is this global governance system that is in place. I won't explain this in detail because this will require a full presentation just to try to understand how the governance system works. But the important thing is to keep in mind that these active editors and most of the community works with some organization behind, with some their rules. You saw I show you the core content policies, but there are a lot of other policies. For example, when you write about medicine, there are some specific policies to talk about drugs. There are specific policies to talk about biographies of living people, et cetera, et cetera. So I show you just the main three. And even some of these policies will change from language to language. The criteria could be different depending on the project. Where the problem starts. So if this, I show you, as I told you, I show you the nice part. We have this very active community that try to follow these rules, that has been discussing for the last 20 years and improving these processes to create these rules and to apply this rule and to do the governance of the project. But still, the problem starts that we don't have enough editors. Like if we had more editors, things would be always easier. Here, I just giving you the number of what we call active editors, and note that here we are not considering anonymous users. In this case, I'm talking about active editors that has a account registered in our platform. And you see that, for example, in the English Wikipedia, we have each editor taking average, it's in charge of almost 45 articles. This obviously is not equally distributed. It's not that every user take care of one specific article, although there are some users that are very topically focused. There are other users that focus on policies. There are other users that focus on grammar, in readability, etc. Whatever they want to do. There's users that add images. But in average, what you have is 45 articles per editor. The English Wikipedia is the largest Wikipedia by far in terms of number of editors, in terms of number of countries that are usually involved in terms of where the editors come from, and in terms of number of articles. We have around 6 million articles in the English Wikipedia. But just to give some examples, in the Spanish Wikipedia, the number of active editors per article is half. So every editor needs to, in average, be in charge of more articles, like almost 100 articles. If you go to Chinese, the things goes worse, and if you go to Arabic, the thing goes even worse. So you have more editors that are more articles that each editors need to pay attention to. This is one of the main problems, and we want to use machine learning and artificial intelligence to support the capacity, the efficiency of those editors. So if you need to be checking so many articles and we have few editors, let's see how machines can help you to do that. But more important, the foundation, and this is not the part that I work with, the foundation and the movement has a lot of policies to try to attract, and programs to try to attract new editors and try to grow the community. There's more problems. We know that it's not only to bring more people, but also if we want to apply this, for example, this neutral point of view for our projects, we need to have more diversity. It's a well-known fact that most of the Wikipedia editors are usually identified themselves as men, and they come from the US or from Western Europe. Here you have even for the readers, the number of people that self-identify as men is much more higher than women. And this depends a lot on the project, from Romanian with almost 50 and 50% to Farsi, where 75% identify themselves as men. We also know that there are gaps in the content. So it's not only about the people that is reading or writing the articles, it's also about the content itself. This plot prepared by my colleague Miriam Reddy, where I took these 2 slides and some more later. This tells you the total number of biographies that we have per language and the percentage of female biographies there. So for example, you can see that, I don't know, English Wikipedia has around 30%, just the 30% of the biographies about women. All the others, almost all the others are about men. So we have these kind of gaps. And in fact, we have in the research team, we have a full program called the Knowledge Gaps. And it's a program that also involves others in the Wikimedia Foundation, where we try to characterize these gaps. So we have gaps in terms of content, in terms of contributors, so editors in this case, and in terms of readers. This effort is leading the team by colleague Miriam Reddy. You can learn more about that going to our page or reading this paper that is available in arXiv, where we discuss the taxonomy, or we create a taxonomy of knowledge gaps for Wikimedia projects. Okay, so I told you all the problems. We don't want to have bias. We want to have a neutral point of view. We have a lot of active editors, very well organized, but they are still not enough and will depend a lot on the project. So now let me tell you what we do in terms of research to try to solve this. And all this area, more than disinformation or fake news, we call knowledge integrity. This is the concept that we use. We have the knowledge gaps with all these problems in terms of gaps in the knowledge, and also we have this program of knowledge integrity, where we try to solve or to support the community in having a content with more that is more reliable. So what is our approach with data science and machine learning? And we can say it for just for the purpose of this talk. I know that this is a discussion. I could say also artificial intelligence. Personally, I think that what almost everyone does is machine learning. Even if you are using deep neural networks, you are doing machine learning. But for the purpose of this talk, let's use machine learning and artificial intelligence as synonyms. So which are the principles that we use when we work with these kind of tools in the knowledge integrity area? First thing that is very important for us is that the humans are in command. So there's different approaches in machine learning where some people talk about having human in the loops. For us, it's important, as I told you, the main asset or the main characteristic that we want to support in Wikipedia is the role of the community. So for us, it's very important that the community always make the final decision. So machines will help, machines will support, but the final decision is always made by humans. Doesn't mean that in some cases a machine can go do something and then wait for a human to accept or reject that or revert that. But the last decision is on humans and more specifically on the community. We also need to have understandable and interpretable algorithms, meaning that the community usually wants to know. Wikipedians are usually critical thinkers, critical readers, and critical users. So they want to understand why they are receiving a suggestion or why, I don't know, given algorithm is flagging a content with a specific tag. So interpretability it's very, very important for us. Emphasizing machine learning is a service for the community. So in fact, what we usually do when we prepare machine learning algorithms is that we don't interact directly with the content. I told you this in the beginning. As Wikimedia Foundation employees, we are not expected to write the content, especially in our work capacity, let's say. So basically what we will do is to generate APIs or models that can be used by the community. There's not a community of editors. There's also a community of developers that in many cases, they will build tools on top of the APIs that we create. We also create some tools, but usually we think always of them as a service for the community. What that means that even if I find or if I create an algorithm that will help to, I don't know, remove some known issue in all Wikipedia articles, it's very likely that I will write that and run on Wikipedia and make all the changes, and that will be received by the community. What I will do is to offer them the tool they could use to apply that algorithm. And insisting more and more, what we want to do always is to support, but not to replace the community. So how we increase the community efficiency, but not, it will be completely stupid from our side, try to do things that will make the community to go, the editors to go away. We want to have more editors, not less editors replaced by machines. And how others use Wikipedia, and this is more related with what I was mentioning in the beginning, and why Wikipedia is different from other platforms when it comes to fighting disinformation and fake news. Nowadays, Wikipedia is used as a ground truth in many automatic fact-checking tasks. We know that Facebook is doing this. There are huge contests released by Amazon, for example, the fever data set, where they use Wikipedia as the ground truth. So basically, you have a news and you need to match this with Wikipedia and know if the content of the news is supported by Wikipedia. This in natural language processing is called the natural language inference task. And this is how many people in the industry see Wikipedia role in the ecosystem of fighting against fake news. And that's great. When people say that, we say, okay, yeah, under your own risk, we are not giving any guarantee that what is on Wikipedia is true. But it's also true that in the internet ecosystem, there are no much knowledge bases that are freely available and that are as accurate as Wikipedia. Although all the Wikipedia considerations in terms of, as I already mentioned, being far from perfect. The problem is that we cannot do that. We cannot use Wikipedia as a fact-checking instance for Wikipedia itself. So that already makes us our problems in terms of a machine learning setup very different. How against what we can contrast the information that is in Wikipedia, even if we have the most perfect natural language inference algorithm, what will be the support ground truth that we will use? We cannot do the same. And here is very important when we talk about machine learning tasks that we always keep in mind that Wikipedia is very different from what others are doing against fake news. So for example, the problems that exist in major social networks providers is to stop the spread of things like flat Earth theories. This won't be a problem in Wikipedia. Usually the problem that they have is something that becomes very popular and that is not supported, or many times is completely silly, or sometimes it's just it doesn't have any reliable source that is coming from. But usually the problems are more about popularities. And the other thing that is different in social network is that they need to respect a lot of the opinions, because social networks are about expressing opinions. So opinions and facts are mixed in social networks, and popularity is very important. None of these two things are important in the Wikipedia space, because facts are very important in Wikipedia, but opinions should be out. You don't write an article in Wikipedia to write about your opinion. You write an article on Wikipedia to express, to share knowledge that is, as we said in the beginning, published and verifiable. So the kind of algorithm that you need to develop in both cases is completely different. So while social networks are about opinions and popularity, Wikipedia is about sharing knowledge. So here is where comes the content integrity or knowledge integrity scope. So our challenges are, I don't know if to say completely different, but very different from the others platforms or services. As I already mentioned, we don't have a unique ground truth. Maybe we can have a multiple ground truth, because we can try to get, I don't know, all the scientific journals and compare with them. But we don't have the thing that others do with Wikipedia, that they can go to Wikipedia and retrieve with the same format in the same repository all the information. We don't have that ground truth. We also have the problem of circular reporting, and this is an interesting one, and this it's more prevalent than some people think. So given that Wikipedia is somehow, and not because we are asking for that, but Wikipedia is becoming somehow an authority, exists the thing that someone publishes something on Wikipedia, then cites Wikipedia, even in reputable sources. There's some anecdotal evidence of how they do this in sports. For example, if some newspaper says this player was transferred to this other team because Wikipedia says that this player is now playing in this other team, and then the news source cites Wikipedia, and then someone goes to Wikipedia and cites the news source. This is also used in politics sometimes, where there are debates about who is the president of a country. You start this kind of circular reporting can start. This is true because Wikipedia said, and this on Wikipedia said this is true because this news source that is citing Wikipedia says that. So this is also a problem that usually in other platforms it would be a bit different. Another problem, very important, maybe one of the most difficult for us, is we have subtle attacks. as I said, I don't know, in social networks, the most relevant fake news are usually like very, I don't want to say ridiculous, but very like flat earth. In Wikipedia, many times you can have more subtle attacks in terms of someone going and changing slightly the point of view in a history article, trying to overrepresent a point of view. Or once I was giving one of these talks, I always tell this story, but once I was giving a talk and someone told me that he knows someone that enters to physics articles, and just for making a joke, they change the sign, the symbol, like plus or minus in one physics formula. Like how you will ask a machine to detect this kind of thing. So we have this kind of subtle attacks that can go from these jokes, that many of these things we call vandalism, to overrepresenting a specific point of view in politics or in history. The other problem that we have is that we have imbalance across projects. As I already showed you, the amount of editors, and that means people that also data that machine learning algorithm can learn from. It's very different in different languages. And not only there's imbalance across our projects internally in amount of articles, amount of editors, there's also imbalances in terms of resources, natural language processing resources in different languages. Again, many of the multilingual NLP resources that you will find out are already trained on Wikipedia. For example, if you use, this is already a bit outdated, but if you use fast text, they release a lot of word embeddings in different languages, but these word embeddings were already trained on Wikipedia. There are other sources too, but Wikipedia is one of the most prominent ones. So if there's some issue there, we cannot solve that issue using, we have the circular problem again. No? And the other and not minor problem that we have are cultural differences. So what could be acceptable in one culture can be completely unacceptable in another culture. And you can think in many disputes in the world, I don't want to mention any specific, but where one part of the history it's more prominent, let's say in one language, and the other part of the history it's more prominent in another language. You can think in countries that has wars or that has conflicts. This is very likely to happen. Or even there are some cultural colonialism. There's this template that people use to mark, to tag articles that are just based on USA government sources. So this template is just to say this is a US government point of view. So this is also problematic. So how we solve that? There are groups that are called terrorists in some countries and they're called freedom fighters in other countries. And we have the community. It's not only that we need to position ourselves, is that we have in the community these two visions represented. So this is another challenge. So what do we do given all these problems that I told you? So basically, we have three main areas of research in the knowledge integrity program. One is trying to understand. So basically, using data science to generate models, like conceptual model, to provide insights, to give knowledge to the editors and to the community to can understand better what is happening. Also, we work in preventing, so creating machine learning models that can create early warnings or identifying threats. And the last one, it's support workflows or fixing. So how we create specifically algorithms that will, or services that will help editors with a specific task. And let me show you some of the things that we're doing. So in understanding, the first thing is that we did, this is something that I wrote now 2 years ago almost, is trying to understand all the things that basically I tell you now. We did a long literature review. We talked with a lot of people working in the disinformation space or the anti-disinformation space. in different universities and companies, and we try to understand better what is the role of Wikipedia. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about now, basically all this introduction that I've done, you can go to that document. We tried also to characterize, and based on some previous work, try to characterize the different type of these misinformation types. So to understand, for example, here that, as I mentioned in the beginning, fake news is just one problem. But you have, for example, satiric news that it's not problematic, but you need to distinguish from fake news. You have malinformation, that is content that is true, but it's shared in a malicious way to create harm. And here it's one of the other problems, and this applies not only for Wikipedia, but for everybody working in machine learning, fighting disinformation, that to be able to characterize something as disinformation, you need to know, or to guess at least, the intention of the person or entity that's spreading that. And this is, again, why we don't talk that much about disinformation or misinformation. We talk more about knowledge integrity, because given that we cannot guess, and more in this cultural cultural diversity context, it's very, very difficult. We try to stick to the rules, to these policies that I showed you in the beginning, and to all the other policies that I haven't shown you today. And we also try to understand the vulnerabilities of Wikipedia. This now we are developing a much more wider. My colleague Pablo Aragon, that in fact is also based here in Barcelona, and he just joined the team 3 months ago now. He's working in doing something much more complete, but at least to understand which were the vulnerabilities that we have in Wikipedia. So, for example, bots are not a huge problem for us. Like, there are problems with bots. We have bots that do some spam, but usually the problems in Wikipedia are more related with, it's more a socio-technical problem than just a technical problem itself. I could talk hours about how people use data voids, for example, to manipulate content on Wikipedia. But yeah, for example, very quickly, data voids is this concept of when there's no that much information about a topic, it's much easier to manipulate. And people can try to use Wikipedia to manipulate, for example, results on search engines, just writing something on Wikipedia about a topic that might be interesting, and there's no enough information. You can think in the beginning, or still in the present of COVID, about the typical data void problem. Which other, so this is understanding, and we do much things on understanding, but these were some examples. Other things that we do more in the data science front is creating some dashboards for our editors to understand and to summarize the traffic that articles are receiving on Wikipedia. This is a social media traffic report that was led by Jonathan Morgan, that was until last year a senior researcher in our team. Basically, this gives information to the editors about visits that are coming to Wikipedia from a specific platform. So what we want to detect here is, for example, when I mentioned in the beginning the idea of taking a screenshot of something and putting it on Twitter, sometimes people do this in purpose. They modify an article and they upload in Twitter and say, oh, Wikipedia is saying that. And if we start receiving a lot of traffic from that site, could mean that something weird is happening with a given article. Or yeah, there are some forums like, I don't know, 4chan, 8chan, or the one that is popular now, that I don't know which of them. They coordinate in some of these forums to attack Wikipedia. So understanding if there's an unusual traffic from a given website that is coming to Wikipedia, we can early detect that, and editors, for example, can protect that pages. More in the NLP side, and I haven't had time here to talk about Wikidata, but in short, Wikidata is the knowledge base that is behind Wikipedia. It's a structured knowledge base that is cross-lingual. So basically, if you have studied anything about semantic web, it will be the semantic web version of Wikipedia. And this is a language agnostic. The good part of this is that, yeah, editors from all languages can collaborate there, because concepts are represented as items, as I said, language agnostic. So we are working in aligning sentences that are present on Wikidata and that exist on Wikipedia to see if they contradict itself. So in that way, we can use the knowledge of all the communities or all the languages in one specific language, and we can understand when there's something that is happening just in one Wikipedia. So, and this happens a lot. We have some results. This was in collaboration with colleagues at KAIST in Korea and in Taiwan. Another thing that we have investigated, and this paper was accepted and will be published is already published in ICWSM. Other thing that we want to understand is how content spreads from one project to other project. So we want to understand, we know that there are less eyes looking to the content in small wikis. So it's, in theory, it would be easier to see bad content or dubious content or content that doesn't follow the rules in small wikis. When I say small wikis, I'm talking about wikis with few editors, like where this ratio that I showed you in the beginning is too big. So we discovered that, and then content propagates. It doesn't mean that this content it's translated, because, and this is something very important to keep in mind, what you see in one language, so what you see in English and what you see in Spanish are not necessarily translations. So it's not that people write Wikipedia in English and then this is translated to all languages. There's some translations, but and in some languages the proportion is important, but mostly the content is written in each language. So here, for example, we discovered that there even this 6% of the content that is created on small languages then propagates to large wikis. What that means that if you want to introduce something on the English Wikipedia and this is being rejected a lot, you could try to start adding this information in smaller wikis, few information in smaller projects, and then use this to justify the presence on English Wikipedia, for example. And the data set of this work is we published, as I said, in ICWSM, if I'm not wrong. We just published this, and all the data to study this is public. We have created a data set where we show how different content spreads across languages. So what you see in this plot is the number, the date, and the number of languages that a given content exists in. So you can download this. If you search for that paper, you will find the repository with the data and the code even to reproduce our results and to process the data yourself. I don't know how much time I have. OK, I will go fast. ORES is the thing that we are using, is the, let's say, the oldest system that is used nowadays in Wikipedia. Is used for many things, but I would say that the most interesting for this case is understanding vandalism. So vandalism is usually what I mentioned, someone trying to, we don't judge the intention, but someone goes to an article and, for example, delete the full article and write insults about that person. We have seen these kind of things. Or, basically it's trying to understand if a given edit it's creating damage or not. ORES was developed mainly by Aaron Halfaker, also a former principal scientist in the foundation. And if you are more interested in understand how ORES works, so this is completely open source, and you can go to that page and understand better how this works. OK, I have, I think, 6 minutes, so I will go pretty fast. Templates are the thing that we are putting more attention now. So a template in Wikipedia can be considered a function, or for the oldest, a macro, that is something that a user creates is a page that is inserted in another page. Maybe the most well-known template in Wikipedia is the citation needed. That is what people use when they want to signal that the reader should read that content with care, and also to tell editors to find sources for that content. This is now done completely manually. But again, my colleague Miriam Reddy and collaborators worked on this a few years ago, and they created a machine learning algorithm that helps editors to detect sentences that need a citation. So they applied some NLP models, some deep learning, and they were able to, with a high accuracy to take a Wikipedia article, take all the sentences, and decide whether this needs a citation or not. And this is very important because this is learned from the citation needed that is already added by the editors. This helps us in many ways because we, for example, now can compute the citation coverage, the citation quality of a given topic, and citation quality be the total number of citations that should exist, the total number of citations that exist over the total number of citations that should exist. So means that, I don't know, mathematics is the less well-cited, only around 30% of the sentences that need citation has a citation, while biology is much more well-cited with more than the 80%. Architecture is also doing very good. So we can use this algorithm to support editors and also to create some insights. Also, this helps us to understand the evolution of citations in Wikipedia. In the last 10 years, we see, for example, in these 3 topics, especially you can see in medicine and in biographies. Biographies of living people is a very important topic in Wikipedia. How the quality of citation has improved in the last 10 years. But there's not only citation needed template. There's tons of templates used for different purposes, and there's some templates that is specifically used for content reliability issues. For example, this template, here you have 2 templates. These are these banners that you see on top of articles. This is the article about graffiti in English Wikipedia. This says that this article possibly contains original research, and the neutrality of this article is disputed. So given that we knew that exist all these templates, and that from the experience working with citation needed, we thought that this is a good way to go. We have been working in release data sets that can be used by the NLP community to work in detecting other kind of problems on Wikipedia. And the cool thing about this is that these are high quality annotated data. So if you work on NLP, you know one of the most costly things is to annotate the data, to have this ground truth. The existence of templates that say that something, for example, is original research, disputed, or contradict, it's very high because people that knows how to use these templates, they are experts on Wikipedia, they are experts in all these rules. So if we can extract these templates and transform this in a machine readable data, we can help the community to work with this data, and the community of researchers can help us to have a better Wikipedia. This paper was just accepted on SIGIR, where we shared all the data. The data is already public. You can search Wiki reliability dataset, and you will find again all the code to read the data and all the data sets publicly available. More recently, and this is one of the last things that I have, we have been working with Christine. Christine was an intern in the foundation. She's doing her PhD in the NLP group in the Cambridge University in UK. We have been studying templates that are used to talk about problems in biographies of living persons. So biography of living people it's always a very delicate issue on Wikipedia, because sometimes you have very important or not very important, like very famous or not very famous people that write to us saying that their biographies contains false information. So the community is very strict in following and applying all the rules on these kind of articles. Here you can see that at least a day we have more than one in average template used revealing problems with biographies. Especially these templates are related with people that use Wikipedia to self-advertise them. So in Wikipedia, there's some criteria of notability. No everyone can have their own Wikipedia page. I would love to have my Wikipedia page, but I'm not that notable. So there's a lot of people that use Wikipedia to write autobiographies, or there's articles that are written with a fun point of view. So we are now studying how is the impact of these problems in the biography space. And again, what is the interesting part of detecting templates? The interesting part of automatically detecting templates is this. Nowadays, this is done completely manually. And this is the ones that has been added, but probably there's a lot of biographies with some of these problems. There's a lot of biographies that are using for self-advertisement, but we don't have enough eyes to look to that. So if we can use machine learning to learn from the experts on detecting this fan point of view or this advertisement point of advertisement way, self-advertisement way of writing biographies, we can support them, and they won't need to scan all the articles. They will just take our algorithm, the output of our algorithm, and check which are the most likely to have these issues. Okay, I almost don't have more time. We are working in other problems. We are, as I mentioned, Pablo is working in an observatory for risk of Wikimedia projects, so different dimensions that makes risky some projects. We are working also in see how automatic fact-checking can work in the Wikipedia context. We are trying now to apply this multilingual Wikidata, Wikipedia alignment, comparing using Wikidata as a bridge to compare different languages, and also working in citation quality with collaborators across the world. So if you want to work on these kind of problems, we are always happy to collaborate with you. I want to thank the team. We are all the things that I show we do in this very small team. We are 5 researchers and our manager, Leila Sia, and one research engineer that also just joined. So we do all this work with few people, but as you've seen, with a lot of collaborators in academia and industry around the world. So you're more than welcome to participate on this research. And the last thought that I want to leave to you is we live in this world where artificial intelligence is used as a keyword to talk about things that are super smart, and many people is waiting that artificial intelligence, whatever artificial intelligence means, will come and solve all the problems of the world. But always keep in mind that even that the graphical representation of artificial intelligence try to show you these very complex robots and these very advanced things, still the way that we have to recognize if something is a robot or a human is that for a human it's very easy to recognize traffic lights, bicycles, trees, hills. And although if there's someone working in computer vision will tell me that maybe machines are very good on that, still machines are not that intelligent. So let's keep in mind always that it's very important to keep humans on the loop. Will be communities that will help us to fight disinformation. Will be people that will help us to fight disinformation. The problems of disinformation, the main problems are created by humans and will be solved by humans. So let's use artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science to help these humans to do this task. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Diego, for sharing your vision. We have some questions here, so if you have some minutes. Here said, you talk about contents on articles, but what about pictures associated to articles? Is there any protocol to follow that pictures are not manipulated? Thanks.
We have a growing work now in the field of images. Our main problem now with images is it's not directly related with fake images. The protocol for images will be similar to what we have for their policies out there. Our main problem is still that most of the article doesn't have an image, and we are just building our capacity to process images now to suggest images to articles. There are a lot of contests within Wikipedia to upload new images, and there's one thing called the Commons, Wikipedia Commons, where you can find all the rules that are applied to that. We haven't had, or at least to the best of my knowledge, I don't remember huge problems in terms of manipulated images introducing fake information. Usually when an image conveys a lot of information, this needs to be backed by some reliable source. So if you want to upload an image from a monument, you can do it directly because we all know that monument. But if you want to prove something about an image, this image needs to come from a reliable source. You cannot upload your own image. Anecdotically, one problem that we had was a contest organized by one brand. I would say the name, North Face, did this contest asking people to take pictures of natural monuments, like important mountains or things like that, where you can see their brand, their logo in the pictures and upload to Wikipedia. And they did this openly. And yeah, then they retract and remove that. But these kind of attacks, it's more usual, or is the one that I know, because the other problem would be if you have an image that is, I don't know, conveying some information that can be fake, this will follow the same rules than the content, than the textual content.
Thank you, Diego. We have a couple of questions more. There are a lot of webs to verify plagiarism. Is it somehow the same mechanism?
I don't know which is the technology that is nowadays used to detect plagiarism. We don't have nothing in place that is working with such algorithms. Important thing on Wikipedia is that you need to back your information with a reliable source. If you will copy something, you need to put this in quotes. And at the citation, there's a specific ways how to cite content. We used some of this technology that this comes all for the branch of information retrieval to detect. We're working now in see how we can detect. We know that a sentence needs a citation. We want to help editors to find that citation, to find that source. So we are applying some related techniques, and I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but some related techniques to that to match some content and some source. But I'm not sure if this was the question.
Thank you, Diego. Well, we have another one. It says, do you think AI will one day have the detail of a human rationing?
Yeah, no, I subscribe to the list of people that don't think that it's a good idea to give entity. When I say give entity, consider as a being, a human being, let's say, an algorithm. I think that algorithms and artificial intelligence are tools. And it's true that they can do things that we don't know or that we don't understand, like in a deep neural network, there are decisions that we might not understand. But we always know what is the objective function. And the objective function is always defined by the owner or let's call the owner of this artificial intelligence. So what I think is artificial intelligence can increase the differences, like the gaps in power, because one person with enough knowledge and enough computational power can multiply their power through artificial intelligence. But I don't think personally, and this is more a philosophical question, that artificial intelligence has their own agenda. It will be always a tool with an objective function that will be defined for someone by someone that has the agenda.
Thank you, Diego. We have another question. If I wanted to work for Wikipedia, are there any events where you can network with Wikipedia employees?
Yes. In COVID times, this is a difficult question. If it's in the research area, I will recommend you to attend the Wiki workshop. This is a workshop that we have done these last 2 years online, where you will find all the Wikimedia researchers like that works in the Wikimedia Foundation, but also it's a place that usually academics and people in industry working, doing research around Wikipedia goes. This Wiki workshops, and it's collocated with the with the DAP conference. These last 2 years was online. This year was completely free. So next year will be hopefully in place if conference comes back and we can travel. So this is one. I would say that this is the main place that I will recommend to go. For sure, you can always also go to we have these office hours of research once a month. So you can go to the page that let me just remind you because maybe you haven't noticed. So here, research.wikimedia.org, and also follow Wiki Research in Twitter, where we post. So once a month we do office hours, where people that wants to talk about Wikipedia comes, and also once a month, another day we do the um research Wikipedia research showcase, where we have one or two people invited to talk about research on Wikipedia, and there's our discussions, and those are maybe the I would say these three places are the ones that I will recommend: Wiki Workshop, uh, Wikimedia Research Office Hours, and the Research Showcase in Wikipedia.
Thank you, Diego. Well, seems like everything has been explained in great details. For now, I guess I see that they don't have any more questions. But well, in any case, that questions arises in the future, do not hesitate to connect with us. Let me check. Yeah, I think that's the questions that we have for the moment. Somebody's thanking you for your reply. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending this BTS talk. Thank you, Diego, for such an interesting talk with us. And well, see you in the next BTS talk. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.